Welcome back to part number 10 of my Albion playthrough. It's been a wild ride, starting as a small tribe up in the present British Isles here. We worked our way into Gaul area and been rolling ever since. I'm trying to figure out a coherent way to present the rest of this because I plan to play until the end date. There's really nothing left to present in a standard play sort of way, so I was thinking of a 5-year update with the previous 5-year as a baseline. I go over various things that I may or may not do. Like, for instance, a baseline now would be we'd want to check religion to see how far the religion is along here. We'll call it 680, so I'll be back at 685 for another update. Religion is spreading well. I've been building theaters and temples throughout here. The temples are done, the theaters are not so much. There's a lot of theaters that need to get built. But first things first, I'm building temples along the coast here. There's a lot of building and whatnot that needs to get done. I've juiced my building costs down to 177 with various technologies. I have the engineering grade wonder, which gets me a build cost, 10% global building slots, and then in order to even access that, you need to go down here and get yourself more building slots. Here you get another +2 building slots here, pop capacity. I've used essentially all of the pop capacity technologies. There's a 5% here. There's a 10% down here in civics. There's, of course, this 5% there. Not much more than that really available. I have my pop capacity 25%, provincial loyalty, and then I don't war much. I just did away with all the military one, which was 15% siege, and took a build cost modifier there and build time as well. This stuff is relatively cheap. The culture is spreading mostly where you'd think it would. We colonized this very early and it's been stewing for some time, so there are a lot of primary cultures here. I was able to, in fact, to move these guys on cultural offensives down into Italy to get it converted and assimilated faster than one might think. It's a fairly close, not exactly long journey. It's not exactly close either. These territories here are essentially evacuated. And once they're evacuated of all wrong culture pops, they're very easy to maneuver and extract pops as they become available. In theory, oftentimes I'll just go up there 1, 2, 3, and then 3 guys, and then they turn a couple more here. There's 6 guys. You go here for 10 guys. You go to this prominence, you end up with maybe 15, 20, 25, 30, and before long you have 40 or 50 primary culture pops just by moving them along that axis there, with no problem at all. It's very quick. I'm trying to convert and assimilate as many pops as possible, so I'm building cities here so we can use the temple and theater, mostly theater, to move out these legacy cities that have a lot of wrong culture pops and into new cities where they can assimilate with the policy, assimilate with the theater, and then maybe convert or whatnot. Most of them are. There's some non-druids about, but those will resolve quickly. I was recently surprised at being able to remove 60 pops. It seems like I just started this war over here. There's a war going on. There was a tribe here. We took it out, rolling up into Sumpa. And then this happened. We rolled up this slot here, took this tribe over and proceeded up in here. And I had just evacuated pops from the coastal territories here, all of which have holy sites. I look back and there's another 60 pops that have arrived. I'll grant you some of them arrived there from warring, but I don't think it was more than 10. There's a lot of migration going on here, and over the next 50 years or whatnot, there are a lot of pops that are going to arrive here. A lot more than will grow in the regions here. So this migration thing is pretty fun to tinker with. What's the baseline pops for the regions now? 7,500 Belgica. I'll get back to you in 5 years. About a 3,100 Transalpine Gaul. Sarmatica Europa is fairly large as well. Building various cities about here. Lots of urbanization going on. Again, Rome is in order. There's a lot of mostly dealt with this relative to assimilation and conversion. There are some large urban centers here. These 3 come to mind: 163, 164, 179. I'll probably make them even larger over the next 5 years. These areas here, I had to delete the ports because they were so wrong religioned. I forgot about it at some point, and it's by and large passed. Now they're generally in order. There's still a lot of wrong cultured pops here. My favorite wheat city is growing well, and I need to find more pops and send them there. Let's see, I'm pretty sure this must be 9 or 10 per aqueduct, so I could really send as many pops as needed to this area. This is a hodgepodge. I think I probably have integrated Macedonian at this point. I have, which means I can trigger the traditions and then deintegrate Macedonian. So if we can take the Macedonian Greek traditions here, boom. And now we can get a bonus for our experience decay. Let's take that. At some point I want to get down here to where I get another bonus for city modifiers. There's a lot of food that gets brought into these various areas. I try to stay away from the wheat when possible. Strangely enough, we make a fair clip off commerce of 411. Don't ask me where it comes from, I haven't looked into it. So here's the population capacity again. Map there, it'll probably get thinner. I'm hoping to make much of the board look like this by the end, or all these bright lights here with sparsely populated wilderness. We make quite a bit of political influence. I've triggered every bonus to political influence that's possible. Our officers are near 100% loyal. Speaking of very happy, let's make them even happier. We'll get these Macedonians back to their freeman status, and that should increase the loyalty of these guys as if it was possible even more. Bactria is integrating. It'll happen shortly before the next. So all these will essentially disappear. The Uzi will still be around. The Bactria will be gone. I think Kamarupa can be integrated. We'll start that right now. How about you? I made this chart in the interest of not just saying like, well, that's sort of this way or that way, or this sort of takes all that subjectivity out of it, and we just crunch these numbers and give the 5-year updates. I think I can make a chart at the end at least. I used to be able to with the base Microsoft Excel. I'm pretty sure I still can. So we have the Belgican region, 7,500 pops or thereabouts. The provenance of the capital province, Belocassia, is about half of that. Various numbers throughout the capital region here. I'm tracking Amorica, Transalpine Gaul, and Baetica. Those 3 proper regions are probably going to be where the action is. We presently have 73,000 pops, about 1/3 of which are primary culture. Over half are druid, as you note. We have 10% nobles, 18.7% citizen, 31.5 freeman, and slave of 40.5. I'm going to build some academies to see if we can get the noble count up and the slave count down. I'll see you in 685. Welcome to the 685 update. We are still about the same position we were. Some of these nations have disappeared because they've integrated. There's a lot of integration going on. It's going to happen relatively quickly. We have Yamnats, the laggard, but still will happen before the end of the game. And this one certainly will as well. I have vassalized many smaller city-states, etc. And I have to war with some tribals if they don't turn to monarchies or republics by the end. The board is still about the same. I've depopulated this. It makes it much easier to evacuate the pops to wherever you want them to go. They end up being mostly primary culture. For instance, if I click this, I would wager there are 1, 2, 3. Well, most are primary culture, so there are. Or how many where are there? They're here. So there are 5 primary and 1 non-primary, and that I could evacuate from this province. I'd probably move them here, and then another click here, I'd move those 5 there, and then evacuate the same number here and end up with 10, 15, 20, and then another group makes it into the capital province. When there are more pops, you have to sort through them. There's this pop and that pop, etc. It's a more challenging maneuver. So once you get this under control, it's much more fun to play with. I have all game I have been moving pops to the capital province, but it has turned into a pop production zone. I purposefully haven't evacuated these pops for about 6 months or so, and I would imagine And there are more than a few that have arrived that are wrong culture and wrong religion that need to get out to places where they can assimilate. Which I built cities here with theaters and temples. I built another city here. City here, there's one going up, I think, here as well. There's this new city here. It's in the process of promoting up. This one as well. On a promotion, mostly primary, if I had to guess. Yeah. So our cost to build cities is quite low, as you may have heard, 32.5 and 130. I have not done a thing with this territory. I deported it some time back. In fact, I deported the entirety of the Italic boot and everything else, actually, because I don't want them going anywhere. I'd rather they sit there and stew and not mess up my ratios. There was a time there where we had harsh treatment on Rome, and they essentially tried to Hellenize Britannia and Transalpine Gaul. I imagine there probably still are a great many Hellenes here, and that's after many years of 30 here. There's still 30, and that Roman warring cycle was some time back. There were a lot of Hellenes that migrated out and came to our coastal territories anywhere that they could find, really. So I realized that I didn't want any pops coming to this area now either, as they're just now druidicizing and turning primary culture. So I again deleted all the ports everywhere except where I want them coming or going, which are very few places, really. The primary culture is taking very well and better than I would have expected, really, for not having set a single policy outside of Transalpine Gaul. Coming along through here as well, down here, even in here is a recent conquest. Druidicizing well, this area is coming along exceptionally well. Trying to thin this area out, I've been sort of paying most of my attention here, and maybe some here, and a little bit through here. I built these two cities up, moved some pops in here. Trying to get these cities larger in through here with primary culture pops, leaving the non-primaries out in the fields and whatnot. Move some down here, but there's still quite a few about here. I need to work on the next 5-year cycle. I think I'm going to try to clear this area out and get them down to our larger cities here. Sornus has some capacity as a mostly primary culture, so and it assimilates and converts very quickly, I'm sure. A lot of these coastal cities are probably ready for more pops, although actually not so much so. My Sarmatian European experiment here, there's mostly primary, so I could move a great many pops to these areas here. Have some cities inland as well. Here, 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 all sorts of assimilation. Mostly, yeah, these cities here can take quite a few pops, and that's where these will probably end up, many of them going, right in this province or whatnot, or here, and then boom. We're making money hand over fist, as you know. A lot of PI, 3.72 per, so I can build the cities, and not only is it 3.72 per month, but the cities only cost 32.5, so I've been building a lot. I plan to build a lot more. As I said, a lot of pops come to this area here via migration. Probably start to thin out Anatolia as well. I'm pretty sure that it's stewed long enough. I haven't paid it any mind at all, and a lot of these places are just straight up primary culture, and they can be now moved in these various cities and made nobles, citizens, and freemen. Let's take a look at those numbers. Here are the numbers, about as I would have expected. The Belgica region proper grew as many pops came. I migrated them manually. The capital province itself, Bellocasia, did grow by 12%. The capital city did grow. The migrants come of freemen and citizens and nobles. They can't be migrated out, so they stay there. The rest of the capital region's provinces are generally stagnant. I move some primaries in, and then I move the non-primaries out. A lot of the non-primaries ended up in Amorica and other places. That's 25% growth there. Transalpine Gaul, as I said, is stagnant. Baetica, even without any sort of migration, as I said, there's no ports, it still grew because I'm moving pops down as they turn primary religion and culture down from the mid aspect down into the urbanized south of Iberia. Pops went from 73 to 76,000. Below this black line here is going to be total percentage relative to the whole, so our pops are indeed assimilating, and we have about 1% more. We have 2.5% more druids. Nobles are ticking up, citizens about even, freemen ticking up slightly, and slaves slightly down. I'm going to try to tick this noble up by building lots of academies over the next 5 years, as I said. I'll check back in 690. Here's the next 5-year update. I've been sniping tribes here and there. There's not a lot left to snipe. I think all the rest are autocratic monarchies or republics. These two might be tribes. I'll take them out whenever. The population, I haven't done a thing out here really moving it. I have thinned out this area here, although you wouldn't know it by the numbers. I moved some to cities and some over to here, populated these, got these cities humming along. I did a lot of pop shuffling down to Macedon, although the numbers don't really show much change, but there was quite a bit of it. Some of these primary culture pops ended up going down to these Macedonian cities, the Thracian cities, and I thinned that out. They ended up going down some to these Illyrian cities as well. This area I'm keeping thin. Every now and again, every 2 or 3 years, I grab a bunch of pops and move them into the capital region. Just still growing. A lot of immigration comes in. I built a great many cities. I continue to build them for the theater and temple. A lot of these guys that come in are wrong culture or wrong religion. Pop on any given, there's a lot of assimilation still yet to do here, as well as conversion. But I think it can happen, as it's starting to happen quickly. These cities get the theater and the temple bonus, as well as the assimilative policy here in the home region, Belgica. I did shuffle a few pops around here and around here, some pops shuffling around in through here, moved more to my grain city, evened this out so they'll finally convert. There were a lot of pops grouped together in provincial capitals. I dispersed them, so they will indeed convert, which they apparently have, and assimilate faster. By the next 5-year update, this should clear out, mostly, I'm hoping. And these guys down here should hopefully become more primary culture as I swing more of these primary culture pops down here. These cities are still just on the cusp of being just barely primary or not at all. The Romans or Bosporans or powers that be that were here and then not here and then got taken over, etc., built a fair number of cities up here, so I populated them. I built a few of my own. That's about the size of it. Let's take a look at the numbers. I changed the configuration of these spreadsheets around just a little bit. I made another here for non-capital region, and I have this one for the capital and aggregate. So let's see what happened in Belgica. We had a 5.5% increase up to 8,419 pops. The capital province had a 6.3% increase. The capital city 6.8%. The rest of the areas here in the capital, as you'll note, are either about even or slightly down, except Moronia, which I believe is adjacent to the capital, is where I've been building cities and going to move some of these pops, as I mentioned, that migrate for assimilation. So that's where they end up. I imagine the same can be said here. Amorica's 10.3% up, Celtica 14.3% up as well. I send some of the pops that migrate to the capital to Amorica and Celtica as well. Transalpine Gaul is about the same. We are up about 2,000 pops or thereabouts. Our culture is risen from 34 to 36, about 2%, about 2 or 3% on the religious unity as well. As I mentioned in the last episode, we're going to try to make more nobles. It's a noble cause, but it's not exactly going as quickly as I had hoped. We gained about maybe a percentage point, whereas the citizens and freemen are about the same, and the slaves about the same, 1% down. So we've made some slaves nobles, and that's about the size of that. Let's see what happened elsewhere. The Iberian region, or Iberian area, with these various regions. Baetica is about the same, Lusitania, etc. So I grouped this to Illyria, Pannonia, and Macedonia. As quite a few newcomers to Illyria. I moved them down from that central portion there that I mentioned earlier, trying to thin the population out. Pannonia is about the same. Macedonia, I did move some of those pops to those cities. Moesia has taken a loss. Thrace a little bit up. Sarmatica, Europa a little bit up. It's about the size of it. I expect what will happen is this should rise by the next 5 years. I'm not really sure what will happen, if anything. Thrace and Sarmatica Europea will rise. Torca, who knows, probably will rise as well. What am I going to do here? Probably more to Amarica and Celtica, as well as these outlying provinces here, and perhaps elsewhere. That's going to be about the size of it. Alright, here's the 695 updates. Not a lot of participants left. This is a single page ledger. I didn't even know Syracuse still existed. I guess he's on an island somewhere here. Turning him into a client state, I'll integrate him before the end of the game. In this episode, I was able to thin out this area here, as I've been talking about. It's not a lot that happened over here at all, but that's not the focus of the game. It's civ building in these former tribal areas or barbarous territories. I was able to move a lot of these pops out this way and down into Macedon. I have begun to deconstruct this grain city that I built out with all these slaves. They're better purposed in these Italian cities here now that the loyalty is passed and there's quite a bit of assimilation that's getting done. I moved quite a few pops. I think in the last great pop move of this game, at least so far as I can tell, that this area is thinned out. There are no more vast swath of pops that can be moved down into Italy, so really what's done has been done. There's various pops about, but it's very thin now. A lot of these pops that were up in here ended up in these cities. They are predominantly primary culture, and they should be about correct ratios by now, and each should have 3 academies. So our noble population should rise, and this area should be highly loyal going forward, as it has been for some time. Was able to move quite a few pops here that have been stewing. There were a great many primary culture pops. There's now 300 in this city, mostly primary culture. There's 320 primary culture there for 280 something. This one is 272. A lot of very large cities in southern Iberia, and the ratios should be about correct on any given one of them. There's some movement that can still yet happen over the next 20 years or so. Thin out this midsection here, bring them down, and continue to build these cities. There's essentially no pops left here, so when they grow, they end up heading toward the capital. I built a great many cities. This episode, this 5-year period, was good to me. I spent much of my PI award and in building cities for assimilating and converting. I juiced my income. I noticed my tyranny had come down, so we weren't getting the national slave output bonus. And I wondered why I had the 5 loyalty bonus here, so I had switched it to national slave output, so that's a 60% slave output from the no tyranny that I had previously. It was about maybe 900 or 1,000, so I'm able to get a lot more done. We'll continue with the same. A lot of these pops here are consolidating into these cities. I took a few primary culture pops out of here, maybe 50, moved them into these cities. There's still a lot of consolidating and building and whatnot that need to get done. I think some of these areas, quite a few of them in fact, still need theaters. Are those going to get built anytime soon? Probably not really so much so. Here are the numbers for this update period. The capital region of Belgica grew by 5%. The province capital is located in grew by 4.5. Capital itself a 6.8. It's about stagnant or thereabouts. Moronia is still growing, moving pops from the capital as they migrate into these three areas here primarily. Amorica grew. A lot of the pops that migrate ended up there. Some of them moved up from Iberia. Celtica's about the same. Transalpine Gaul about the same. Had a 4.3% increase in population. We gained a point and a half or thereabouts of primary culture assimilation, and maybe 2% or thereabouts for religion. The nobles spiked. The rest remained about the same, promoting slaves into nobles. We have Baetica, which grew by about 13%. Lusitania about the same. Contestania by about 3% or thereabouts. Illyria about the same. Macedonia, as I said, there's a lot of cities down there, so from the tribal areas migrated down there to promote and such. Moesia gained again. Thrace up. And Taurica has seen a market increase of 12.5%. Time again, the year 700 update. Not a whole lot of time has passed on the video on my end. I think it's been a couple of days. I'm on and off playing. It just is so much to do. I've been consolidating these pops in these cities. I've begun to... I take one city down here in any given province, build a temple in it, consolidate all the primary culture pops there, and then bang out or bounce out pops to the various territories, about 5, 6, or 7 or whatever, and let them assimilate there. I would be surprised if any of them have as yet, but the religion tends to spread faster than not in that manner, and actually there are more guys that can be moved to the capital cities now. There's a fair clip of here's the capital. Let's see. There's 11 primary culture pops there. Let's see. There's one more now. We'll go down this list. There's 2 more. It actually works better than I had thought that it would work. By my best reckoning, I just did this. I mean, it's certainly no more than 5 years ago, really. So, let's see. So how many are there now? It's almost primary culture dominant. By another 5 years, it will be, and then more of these pops will convert and assimilate. So anyway, there's quite a bit of druidism about. Most of the mid and western board are indeed druidic. I make a lot of money. I spend a lot of money, but I have been accomplishing my goal of thinning out these tribal territories and moving the primary culture pops down. Some of these cities here, this is a small one, 200. This is another 200, 330, 325, 275. A couple of small 100 and whatnots here, 100 and whatnot, 120. There is here, smaller cities, and this need to get some pops here. I should be able to move some pops up from here. I've finally gotten around to consolidating Africa. I want to get these guys turned to noble from slave and promotions and such going. So I think most of them should be primary culture. This much the same here. Most of the cities are going to be primary culture with the 3 academies. I completely deconstructed the slave city generally. It has it used to produce quite a bit of wheat. Now there's a bunch of nobles that migrated there, and what slaves are left are just sort of there. I think I deleted. I said the mills are still there. Let's do away with those. And I simply moved them. They produced a lot of grain and caused no havoc here. They also came from these cities where they would have been obstinate. So I took them out of these cities here, moved them here as sort of a temporary staging where they produced quite a bit of grain and were augmented by these mills. And then hop, skip, and a jump, 1, 2, 3, 4 moves out there right in our mega city complex, which is where they ended up, mostly in here, where we are a wildly primary culture, and I didn't even notice what difference the 400 slaves that I moved in there made. So far as I can tell, it's about the same. Most of this area has been devoid of, the pops have been moved away. There are some in through here still. Aquitania is completely, there's no urbanization, there's nothing there. They all ended up either here, or in these cities here. There's a lot of cities that are getting built, probably completely urbanized. Belgica, or by the time I'm done, I'm sure I have my found city costs down to 25 that already has one under construction. There's a lot of, again, pops that migrate in here, as you may have heard, and they have wrong culture and wrong religion, many of them. So if I can get them assimilating and converting in these cities where they can make use of the temple, etc., I'm better off for it. I moved quite a few pops aggregating up here. I moved them to these cities, some of them down further. That's really about the size of it. This area is thinning out. A lot of pops moving down into Macedon or over in here. I'm pretty sure this will be completely thinned by the next 5-10 years cycle. I'm pretty sure this will be completely thin and will look much like this area here as well. I built quite a few theaters and temples here in former Bactria. These guys are going to end up migrating over into these numerous cities, but they just have to wait until the assimilation and conversion and whatnot goes on. There's quite a bit of it to get done. Do I want to, I suppose I could set policies or governor policies or whatnot, but if I change this policy, how much does it cost? 4 PI. Or I can build a city over here for 20 whatnot, where the main focus of the game is. I'm going to stick with my plan here and just not worry about these policies. Let's take a look at the numbers. Has about sort of the same trajectory as we've noted here. The capital region of Belgica up about 5% again. The capital province markedly improved to 6.7 relative to the last time. Some of the pops are staying there. Capital city seems to be 6.8, 6.9% up, generally speaking, every 5-year period. These pops are moving out into these other territories, but I suppose most of them, it would seem, are heading to Amorica and or Celtica. Although this is, there are quite a few pops here now, but generally speaking, they head here, or here. 1.7% increase in population. There's no one left to conquer, essentially, so that's all organic. We increased our primary culture by, 2.5%. This one up by about 3%. And we popped the nobles up by 0.7% over the last time. A few more citizens, a few more freemen, and less slaves. In Iberia, we have a 5.4% increase in Baetica. It's about the same elsewhere. There's not a lot of urbanization in Lusitania or Contestiana. There's some growth in Illyria, Macedonia, a lot of cities down there. Thrace, probably grow those cities there as well. Moesia a bit up, and Torica. That's the size of it. That's going to do it for this episode. I'll start with 705 in part number 11.